Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Yes, indeed. Easton Roofing, proud sponsor of Danny Unleashed. Danny Clinkscale joining us every Friday at 3. Easton Roofing has you covered. Residential, commercial roofer that collects no payment until you're 100% satisfied. You can call Easton Roofing today at 913-257-5426. Credit cards, yep, they're accepted. Financing, that's available as well. Difficult times, yes, and that means you might need a little help when paying for that roof, whether it's repairs. We had some big storms blowing through early in the week. Let Easton Roofing come out and give you a free inspection and, if necessary, a free estimate on any repairs, or if it is a new roof that it's time for you, Easton Roofing will do that. One of the fastest growing companies in Kansas City. Why? Check out their Google reviews. People love Easton Roofing. 4 straight years voted best of houses. Angie's List Super Service Award winner. It is Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Danny, how are you, my friend?
Well, there's a lot of things going on, but in general, I'm doing well, Soren, and just having a good time with all the things DannyClinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. And just a heads up, we do a lot of different things there, but for people who just want pure silliness, every other Thursday we do a thing called Thirsty Thursday Sense and Nonsense. And it's just me and a buddy hanging out, talking about nothing, and it's funny.
Okay.
So there you go. And to find out who the buddy is, you got to listen and figure it out. It's a big surprise.
Is that to say that part of your humor is your modesty?
Yeah, that'd be it. I didn't.
Okay.
There's 2 people, so I'm not responsible for all of the humor.
Right. It's a collective team effort, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a team effort, so that's kind of a fun little thing. I do every other week. I do one with my wife too, called Reconcilable Differences. So that's
really,
yes, that's a fun.
Well, that's brave. Is what I gotta say.
Is. Yeah. It consists of her singing and Danny going. That's not that good.
If she was singing, then we'd have to have the dog. Our corgi sings with her when she sings. Which is pretty funny, actually.
Well, nothing says comedy like a corgi.
Yeah, exactly.
But the dog is like pitch perfect. It's amazing.
That's good.
Not pitch. She is not pitch perfect, but that's all right.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to hear. All right, check it out at DannyClinkscale.com. 14-24 the Royals are, Danny. They've dropped 3 in a row. They now have a 0.9% playoff chance in a year that there are going to be 8 playoff teams out of 15 out of the American League.
Yeah, it's not been good for a while there. I tried to cling to the thought that, they were a little bit better than their record would indicate, and, they were showing some positive things, but the last week or 10 days has kind of flushed that down the toilet, kind of. I mean, not that there's nothing to hang your hat on, but there's more things to be disappointed about than there are to be excited about, that's for sure. And one of those not to be excited about was the fact that they really didn't do much at the trade deadline, although there wasn't, a barrage of activity around baseball. But so I think we all, well, maybe not we all, but I think people who were observing from afar as the Royals sort of circled the drain after, kind of treading water the first couple of years after the championship, I didn't think this was going to be a 20 or 21 thing. Did you?
When they were rebuilding? No, I thought they seemed overly optimistic in how fast they could turn it around. I think one thing that I think has been the biggest flaw in Dayton Moore's game is an inability to accurately assess what he's got. And I think he has constantly overassessed it, not overanalyzed it, overassessed it, overgraded it, and not been realistic enough with himself about what he actually has. But I also I want to say in his defense, I think that's his strength as well, that he believes in his guys so much that, I think there are teams that would have ejected on Eric Hosmer or Mike Moustakas during some of the rough times and taken, 60 cents on the dollar for them to then blossom into the players they were at times, and certainly in the postseason were for this franchise in 14 and 15. Those things would have been happening on other clubs. So I don't want to be overly critical. I mean, I think that is a flaw. It has not been a fatal flaw to this point. If you want to say, well, they've lost 100 games, okay, in and of a season, yeah, it's been a fatal flaw. I mean, I think there are some mistakes that have been made. I mean, to me, I have no issue with the 2016 season and how they played it at all.
Oh, I don't either. 16, I have no issue with.
Yeah, you can't tear up a World Series team, and you can't do it. You absolutely can't do it. Michael Jordan's pissed that he didn't get a chance to go for a fourth. Everybody, it's okay to let it play out and not be there. 17, I'll listen to it, and I would be more eager. I'm certainly subscribed to the Billy Bean theory. If you look at it and don't think it's here. My issues are, one, re-signing Gordon. I said that at the time, so this is not some revisionist history. I said at the time I think this is a mistake. I think it was, and I think if they didn't have Gordon's contract hanging around their neck, they might have Moustakas or Hosmer on this team, and they'd be a better ball club for it because they don't have either one of those spots nailed down right now. Franco's having a nice year as a rent-a player, but he still has a 277 on base.
Right.
Okay, so he's not the answer, right? He's hit some home runs, but he doesn't get on base enough. And so if you could have, to me, I will always say that they made a mistake in not getting one of those two guys signed. And I want to find out what the deal was with Moustakas. Once Hosmer wouldn't sign, had they already pissed Moustakas off because they weren't trying to sign him, and Moose told him no? Whatever the story is.
I think he might have pissed them off.
Oh, I know he did, ultimately. But was it because they went to him after Hosmer? He's like, screw you. If I'm like sloppy seconds, I'm not interested. Okay, was there a way they could have been negotiating with both of them? I don't know. I want to know how that came down. Because I always said, here's my frustration. If signing Alex Gordon keeps you from signing either Hosmer or Moustakas, which to me should have been their plan to sign both of them, and I think it became apparent that they couldn't. But if both of those guys were on this team right now, how much better would it be?
Oh, it'd be a lot better. And if it was Hosmer, there'd be a true leader type of person, somebody to take the bullets like he always did anyway, even when they were good. And the Alex Gordon signing was I don't.
It's terrible.
It was
an awful signing,
and it was another example of what you're talking about, in the fact that Alex Gordon became a well-rounded player who was an elite defender at a non-elite position on the field. And to think that was super valuable at that kind of price tag was just wrong. It's just period.
The inability, for all the money they saved on getting Perez signed early and on holding Merrifield down, they crapped it all away and more on Gordon. And listen, I'm not. I said at the time, and I'll repeat it now. I'm not hugely pissed that they kept a fan favorite and one of their guys here. I'm not. But I said then, and I will.
But you're pissed
agree.
at the result.
I am, and to me, it got worse when Moustakas and Hosmer weren't signed, and then they continue to not have a replacement for Moustakas or Hosmer 2 years later, and there's not one on the horizon for either one of them.
And also, the Royals are a team that wants to do it from within. They're not going to sign a big bucket load of free agents. And they just had, when they still had high picks, they blew a few of them. And that really hurt. That really hurt.
That hurt. That set them back. It's a perfect storm. Not a perfect storm. I don't want to act like it's just, oh, my God, it's a miracle that it ended up being this bad. It's a lot of things that contributed. Yes, Christian Colon with the number 4 pick, Kyle Zimmer with the number 5 pick, Bubba Starling with the number 5 pick.
Yep.
Those are all picks that have to be guys. And right now they're getting good 7th innings out of Kyle Zimmer. And maybe he'll end up being what Luke Hochevar was, right? Hochevar was a guy who was very poor as a starting pitcher, but ended up being good for 3 years as a reliever. That's looking like what they're going to get out of Kyle Zimmer. It might be 6 years or 5 years of it now, and so they'll actually get more. because they've got control of him.
But a seventh-inning stud is a big luxury on a bad team.
Yeah, so, yes, that is a big part of it. But money management's a part of it, because that money for Gordon could have gone to Moustakas or Hosmer. And at the time, somebody, like, well, if not him, then who? I said Dexter Fowler. And Dexter Fowler could have played for this team in 2016 and 17 as well as Gordon did, and you'd been out from under the contract. And so, that's frustrating to me. And then they swung and missed in that one draft where the kid who made his debut and got hurt.
Foster Griffin.
I always want to say Foster Griffin. I always want to say Forrest Whitaker. Foster Griffin.
That would be a story.
That's different.
Yeah, that would be.
That's different.
Foster Griffin, I mean, that draft class, so little from it. So, and my fear is that they just love Witt and Salvy and Duffy and all those guys so much that we just can't possibly trade them. And you watch them play it out here and walk away, and they get a sandwich pick for them. And, they just – I think they love their guys so much that they can't possibly trade them because they overvalue them through the roof.
Well, I agree, and they, you just hope they aren't missing windows. Not that I think he's, this is the end, but all of a sudden Whit Merrifield's not hitting right now. So, what maybe, he was more valuable at the trade deadline than he is this moment. But they seem to have absolutely no interest in dealing him, and he's just such a potentially valuable person to another team, and the Royals don't look like, he's going to be an old man when they're competitive, it looks like, right now.
Yeah, and that's to me, that's what frustrates me. And then, again, Mondesi, they just loved him and loved him and loved him, and I don't think there's any way you can say that either, one, they've grossly overrated him, or two, they really did a poor job of developing him.
Got an RBI last night.
I mean,
but no hit.
440 OPS. I mean, that's hard to do.
Dude, Escobar is saying the guy can't hit.
22 consecutive games without an extra base hit. 22. His last extra base hit was a double on August 7th.
To get an extra base hit when you don't get a hit.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not...
9 for 78.
Yeah, it's almost not right now. That it's a non-issue. He stinks. Let's move on.
Right.
Until that changes, it's flogging a dead horse, let alone beating one.
Well, and the bringing him up when he had done nothing in the minor leagues that said he warranted being up means they've now burnt 3 years of service time. And he's, now they got to start paying him, and he's at least going to be, he can suck all the way to the end, and he's going to be like $2.5 million next year. You
don't think that one at bat in the World Series dinged him a little bit for a while? I mean, he looked like a little leaguer. You remember that at bat?
Yeah.
He struck out on 3 pitches, and it was like he was swinging when the ball was in the guy's glove. I mean, I remember I was sitting there in Shea Stadium, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And, that's picking one moment, but, that's...
You know what it says to me?
That's sticking a guy in a Major League roster to be a second pinch runner, basically. I mean, come on.
Well, yes, but he was a second pinch runner that could play positions.
Right. Yeah,
they said...
You're putting him on the roster in case there's a 16-inning World Series game, which is about the reasoning there, I guess.
That's where it was. They did win the World Series in 5 games.
Yes, that's true.
We should point that out. I wanted to look here.
Yeah, he didn't hurt him. I mean, there was no harm there, except maybe to him.
The Braves won the World Series in 1996, right?
Yes. No, 95.
When was Andrew Jones?
That was 96. He went bonkers in the opener. They won Game 2 and then lost 4 straight.
Okay. So, in that year of 1996, he came up and got 106 at-bats. Batted .217 with a .265 on base and a .443 slug, a .709 OPS, and then he had a monster moments in the World Series. And I have to believe that's what was driving Dayton Moore. That year in the minors, though, he had hit 34 home runs, driven in 92, batted .339, .421 with a .652 slug.
Yeah, that's banging the door down.
One of these things is not like the other.
In 1995, his slash, .277, .372, .512, with 25 homers and 100 driven in. He walked 70 times, something that, as we know, Mondesi's allergic to.
And what, 18?
In 1994, 290, 368, 412, right? The power hadn't shown up yet, but the 368 on base, there was a batting eye there. And so he's in the World Series at what, 20 years old? Was he 20?
He was 19.
Yeah,
was he 19?
Born April 23rd, 77. Yeah, he hadn't turned 20 yet.
Okay, so he's 19 years old, and it's almost like Dayton just wanted to recreate that moment. And the problem is that he's wrong. This isn't Andrew Jones. And after that, it's like they wanted to validate that decision.
This isn't even fat Andrew Jones.
Right?
Fandrew Jones.
Yeah. By the way, Andrew Jones would go on to hit 434 home runs and have a career 337 on base. I just that's the part where and they continue, man. I mean, he threw that guy out at home about a week ago on that relay in the 8th inning that kept him alive, and then they end up winning the game in extra innings.
He threw somebody out last night too. I mean, he's got there are tools there. You can see them, but they sat. They finally sat him, and they sat him for one game. I mean, come on, sit the guy for 3 games or something.
But my frustration is that when he does that, and he didn't get a hit in either one of the games, right? He didn't get a hit last night, did he?
No, 0 for 2. He got an RBI, but he didn't get a hit.
And I did not get on the Zoom last night, but the other game when he threw the guy out, it's like, oh, I mean, and no offense, but the beat guys. Come on, seriously. They can't wait to be like, how about Monty with the glove, huh? Why do you do this? So I can't even, I realize, I'm like, yeah, I should probably back off Matheny and the organization. If they're going to if the beat guys are going to soft serve this, oh, look at this, you made a great play. Oh, yeah, he did make a great play. Yeah, there's so many things he can do to help us win. What I really think at some point he's got to be like, yeah, but he didn't get a hit. And he hadn't had a hit in a month. He ought to make some plays in the field because the guy can't hit. I don't know when the tough love can start. They just seem so unwilling to hold him accountable. And they just continue to make excuses for piss poor play. And I don't know how that environment can work. If you're Whit Merrifield, aren't you just steaming? This is the guy you wanted up over me. I've now, led the league in stolen bases twice, led the league in hits twice. I'm the only thing you got on this team, and you continue to diaper this kid. Whit to me seems like he sits down to every media thing pissed off.
Well, you do get that vibe from him, really, kind of. And the guy has every right to have a chip on his shoulder. There's no question about that.
I agree. I'm not mad at him.
No, I'm a little surprised. The circumstances have always been bad for him, but if I can't, and him riding it out to free agency at the age he was at and everything else, but boy, I wouldn't have been much inclined to sign back with the Royals. I'll say that if I was him.
Well, it got him what? Upwards of $25 million versus what in arbitration was going to get him. What are they thinking, 10?
Right. I mean, it was something, but you figured you maybe just roll the dice a little bit and see how valuable you're going to be when you find it. When was he going to be a free agent? That is not resonating in my head right now.
No, I know. Well, I'll bring it up. No, you're right. There was definitely the Scott Boras plan would have been, no, just take your arbitration. I'll fight for it. You'll get a good payday, and then we'll get you out on the open market. His contract, let me get to Whit.
He's making about 4, isn't he? Isn't that right?
Yeah, 4.06.
Yeah, but no, next year it goes to 7, and then it goes back to 3, which to me almost says that if he's going to stay here, they're going to do that Salvi renegotiation next year. Signed the deal in 19, it looks like. 4 years, $16.25 million, but I believe there's a $6.5 million option.
5 this year, 6.7 next year, 2.75 in 22, and then a $6.5 million option for 23.
Right, 21.
Made $1 million
some
last year.
incentives that are there. 24 option escalates by $4 million with less than 110 days on the IL across 19 to 22. So if he stays healthy, which he has, he had spending time on the IL last year or this year. I don't know if they're going to prorate that number down because of the less games this year or not. The Royals would be wise not to just not piss him off. But if he stays healthy over the next couple of years, then that number will go to 10.5. So I guess he can get to like 21 million total on this deal. But then he's a free agent going into his age 35 season.
So that would have been the time. So when would he have been? Could he have been a free agent before that?
Yes, he would have been a free agent
this year. After
he'd
this
been
year,
a free agent. They stole 16 from him, so 17, 18, 19. Then 20, 21, and 22 would have been arbitration, I think.
So yeah, like I said, the whole thing is has shaken out poorly for him. So I'm not blaming him, but he's just.
But it was going to shake out poorly for him based on when it started.
But his wife must hear a lot of griping at home about the whole thing. I mean, he just is like, well, we can do anything with Witt. You play him in center, whatever. Don't play him at second. Give him this sort of half-ass contract. I mean, he often describes himself as a man of faith, and he has had it tested. I'll say that.
All right, let's take a break. I want to come back and talk about trading Hunter Dozier. Not because I don't like Hunter Dozier, actually, because I do like Hunter Dozier, and I think actually he would bring return. We'll do that with Danny Clinkscale. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Residential, commercial, yes, they do both. Project manager on every job site. No payments collected until you're 100% satisfied. Call Joe Spiker and his great team. They're online at eastonroofing.com. The phone number, 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426. Taylor, Kaylee, they'll be happy to get the process going. Remember, estimates are free. Inspections are free. Get it right now at Easton Roofing. Find them online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Live ball era, 4,000 innings, National League. Who has the lowest career ERA?
I'm going to go with one Tom Seaver.
I was going to go there too, just because of.
No, you weren't. Stop being a follower, Danny. Blaze your own trail. I might not be right.
If the man hadn't passed this week, I guess I wouldn't have guessed Tom Seaver. But since he did, I will go with Tom Seaver also.
George Thomas Seaver, 2.73. He's the only pitcher who's under 3, and he's at 2.73.
That's amazing, because he pitched till he was 40, too.
Yeah. His first 11, 40, a lot of those years were American also. League, though. Yeah. Most of his National League years were in his prime. His first 11 years are just bonkers.
Yeah, that ERA is National League only.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah. So, the end was White Sox.
It's funny. One of the questions I used yesterday was, who are the only two players would have Mets caps on their Hall of Fame plaque, and it's him and Mike Piazza. And then I look at the birthdays today, Mike Piazza. I can't use that question. I got to find something else.
Oh, you could use it. Don't you know? Their program directors tell me all the time your audience turns over every 15 minutes.
Cool. Well, then I'll use this same question next hour.
Yeah, you should, because I've always sat there and that was That was a long time ago in my career. I shouldn't say always. It's not like Chad's coming down going, hey, every 15 minutes. Right. Chad is not ever, but I used to get that all the time. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I get there's audience turnover, but
you don't want to kill the loyal audience by having the same stuff go on over and over.
I understand there's somebody that's just the only time they listen is if they're running an errand. Okay, I got it, and we're doing the show for them. But we've also got people that listen to the whole show, and we're doing the show for them too.
Right.
Like,
we once had there was once a consultant who couldn't figure out why the board ops let 7 seconds of delay or dead air go at the end of an hour. Didn't understand that they were getting the concept of delay.
Yeah, it's like it's not going over the air that way. It's just in the control room that way.
These guys got to get better. You can't have 6-7 seconds of dead air at the end of every hour.
It's like
you're getting the program feed, not the on-air feed. It's called delay.
Well, it's better than when somebody.
That's a fun story for the three.
Better
of us.
than when somebody just punches a button because they don't want to do it the right way, and then you sound like Mickey Mouse for the first 5 minutes of the next hour.
Going back in is fun.
Well, here we are. Welcome back to the program.
By the way, Good Sense, what we were playing for there, get the Good Sense app, order online at goodsensesubs.com. You can pick your time as soon as possible to whatever time you want to pick it up and grab it on your way home, slicing the meats and cheeses fresh right in front of you, baking that bread fresh twice each day. Cookies, they got them. Check them out right now at goodsensesubs.com or the app. That's my go to recent orders, bang, reorder, bang, whole family's order is ready. I can order for the whole family in under 30 seconds on the Good Sense app. It's as good as it gets. GoodSenseSubs.com, founded in Lenexa 30 years ago. Great hometown company. Get it this weekend. If you're not wanting to do any cooking, grab your lunches, your dinners at Good Sense. Good time to get to a Good Sense. Danny Clinkscale's with us. Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Danny, to me, the thing that the Royals need to do is they got to figure out when they think all that pitching is going to be ready and how much of it is the real deal, right? I think the problem is the Royals kind of look at, trying to have a perfect 25-man roster, and in reality what you need is like a perfect 16 guys, and then you fill in around it. Maybe it's 17 or 18 with the quantity of power arms you need out of the pen right now. But there are power arms to be had on the open market at times. But, I just, right now, and I'll give Dayton Moore great credit, I don't see it lining up with Sal Perez, Danny Duffy. Duffy's only got next year as the last year on his deal. But I don't know that it lines up with Sal Perez and Whit Merrifield for them still being really good when the rest of the organization comes together. And I don't see the answer everywhere. I don't see 16 solid answers in this organization, right? I don't see first base. I like McBroom, but he's mortar. He's not a brick. Okay, I'm like, you found something there. That's pretty good. Keller was a great deal in the Rule 5. I see him as a brick. Okay, I think he's real, but I don't see enough answers. And I'm still very much open on Singer, although I'm not convinced that Keith Law is wrong that he's a reliever. I've not seen enough to feel confident in that. I believe they've got, probably, Mass says 3 good starting pitchers out of those young guys. If Brad Keller's here, that's 4, but Keller goes into, I think, into arbitration next year. So Hunter Dozier is going to be 30 next year, right? So, you need to figure out what your contending year is. And just telling the fans and yourself that it's next year every year is ridiculous. They need to know when they're really ready to contend. And if when they're ready to contend isn't until 23, then they need to be moving the 30-plus, the guys that are right at 30 now, Sal Perez and Hunter Dozier, and getting big returns on them because they're controlled for a few years. They've got a lot of value, and you could go get a lot of young talent for them.
It doesn't. I think it's the overly optimistic part that you've talked about a couple times today, and many times over time. They seem to think they have more right now than they actually do. They still do need an influx of young talent. And a big part of it is because they missed on those draft choices, players who would be in their, mid to late 20s now and productive, and, that you could actually see being good players in 23 or 24, although some of them are so old that even that's past now. And then you probably have to get better than normal return out of that flock of pitchers you drafted, or they're kind of doomed. for a while. Because on the position player standpoint, nothing much is happening.
I'll say this. If out of Bubic, Lynch, Singer, Coar, and now throw in Asa Lacy, who ought to quickly be at the same level that those guys are because he was a top 3 pick. He was the number 1 pitcher in his class. If out of those 5, they get 3 starters and 1 good reliever and 1 okay reliever, I'm satisfied.
Oh, yeah, but that's unusual.
That is unusual, right?
Yeah.
I will say this, that the first 4, though, have come up are all still being considered starters by all the talent evaluators. One of them is going to fail. Hey, I mean, I cannot believe that they're going to start a rotation in like 3 years that has all 5 of those guys in it. It just it just never works that way.
No, it never happens. It would be as miraculous as, well, a small market team winning the World Series.
Now, the good news is there's several other pitchers that have kind of joined that level that are out there that are moving up the rankings that were lower drafted that are now getting, the looks like, okay,
they're going to have to do this like Tampa has, that you can't even name the guys who are playing on the field hardly, and they just pitch their butts off.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what the Royals are trying to do. And I'm fine with that, but I think that's a good plan.
I think it's kind of a good plan, but here's the difference to me. Tampa has just tried to load up on explosive arms and whiff everyone. The first 2 Royals pitchers we have to see here are not in that category at all. Not that they can't strike people out, but they're not power arms per se. And, that creates that makes it even a little dicier if you don't have power arms. So now Asa Lacy's supposed to be that guy, but I mean, that's what Tampa does. They want guys throwing gas. I mean, that was a great quote. Well, that was a great quote the other day from Kevin Cash when he was mad at Aroldis Chapman. He goes, "Hey, I have a whole," I forget what he said. He goes, I got 10 guys out there that all throw 98. Right. He said, I can't remember what the word he used, but it was like, I've got a whole infantry or some word like that of guys that throw 98. And that was all he said. That was funny. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the Royals have put an emphasis on power pitching acquisitions. But, and Lacy has got to be better than the position, the couple of the Vanderbilt kid for sure. He's got to be better than him because they passed on that kid. And there's plenty of people to say, well, it sounds like he's going to be, I'm trying to think of a comp, kind of a 15 home run guy in the outfield, and they're not sure he can play center. And, okay, all right, if that's what he's going to be, and, and I'm trying to get, who's the guy, who's the right fielder for the Braves that's been with the Orioles and the Braves? And Nick Markakis. They're kind of talking like that's the upside. Well, that's a good player. And that does scare me because I remember when the Royals drafted, oh, God, what was his name? He never did get to the big leagues. And, I was talking to him, and I'm like, oh, okay, what do you see in this guy? And they're like, oh, well, we see, he could be a Mark Kotsay. That's what it was. Oh, he could be a Mark Kotsay. And I'm like, Mark Kotsay? Took this guy 4. Right? Let me find Royals first round picks. Here it is. Too many bookmarks, right? I needed bookmarks for my bookmarks. They took him at number 4? Yeah. I'm trying to think. Chris Lubanski took him at 5. Right. Chris Lubanski. Wow. And they come back and they go, yeah, kind of a Mark Kotsay. I'm like, what? Mark Kotsay. Chris Lubanski was taken 5? Oh, my God. Yeah. What year was that? Chris Lubanski went 5. That was 2003. Here, I'm going to tell you who went around him. Oh, no. Right? So in front of him went Delman Young, Ricky Weeks, Kyle Sleeth, and Tim Stauffer. Behind him, this is funny, behind Lubanski, Ryan Harvey, who was an outfielder, did not make the bigs, not the Ryan Harvey reliever. Nick Markakis, Paul Maholm, singular, not Mahomes. I remember as pitching. John Danks, Ian Stewart. So the top 10 was certainly, Markakis is the best of the bunch. Right. By far out of there. So it was a bad draft of who the top guys were considered to be.
trying to look, is there somebody who was down later? Brian Anderson.
It's like just a bad year.
Yeah, it's just a bad year. Chad Billingsley is down here at 24. Mitch Meyer, Royals grabbed at 30.
There you go.
So
Brian Anderson,
that's
my
was.
constant Bubba comp.
Yeah.
That Brian.
So, I just like when I hear the same thing when I Christian Cologne, kind of Jeter leadership, not as good as Jeter. Like, you're taking him 4. Like, leave Jeter on the table, please. Like, if you're going to take the guy 4, I was like, what?
Yeah, but
Like,
it was like a Walmart Jeter. They weren't even trying to sell him as Jeter.
I know, and I'm like, this is a really bad sign. If this is where you're going, I was like, no.
Maybe he was
pass.
Maybe he was part of what convinced him to go toolsy all the time, because there was a guy with no tools. He was just a tool. I mean, he wasn't a good athlete. He didn't keep himself in any kind of shape either. It was maybe after that they just said no more of that.
I'm trying to look. Tucked in behind Bryce Harper, Jamison Tyon, Manny Machado, then came Christian Cologne. Followed by now let's see the context of what the rest of the top 10 was. Drew Pomeranz, Barrett Lux, Laux, Matt Harvey. So they corrected that mistake. Delino DeShields, Karsten Whitson, Michael Choice.
Yeah, not very choice. But there are a couple good players there. Delino DeShields is still an effective Major League player.
Yeah, well, and then what everybody talks about is then at pick 12, Yasmani Grandal, 13, Chris Sale. And Sale was the guy we were talking about at that time.
Right.
I think there were some signability issues, funky delivery, slight build. There was reasons not to take Chris Sale, obviously, because he didn't go 5 immediately after the Royals. There was clearly other reasons not to do it. But, you're in the get-it-right business, so you can't have – 4 of those guys in a row. Yes, you can have a stinker. They happen. But you can't have a whole bunch of those in a row. And that's
right. And
really
they had a few of those in a row. There was no little nugget in the middle. And you just can't do that if you're not going to be able to go out and spend big free agent money. You've got to make those. And those are high picks, too. Those are supposed to be the easier ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just to put it into context for folks, after the Royals took Eric Hosmer in 2008, at 12 they took Aaron Crow. At number 12 in 2009. At number 4, Christian Cologne. In 10, in 11, it was number 5, Bubba Starling. In 12, it was number 5, Kyle Zimmer. In 13, it was number 8, Hunter Dozier, and number 34, Sean Manaea. So they at least that was a good one. Both those guys have panned out for where they were because it was assignability. Dozier got 2.2,
right,
and Manaea got 3.6. So you can see how they were doing the money there. But then in 14, it was Brandon Finnegan. They got production out of him in a run to the World Series and then traded him. Foster Griffin and Chase Vallett at picks 17, 28, and 40. And then in 15, it was Ash Russell and Nolan Watson.
Yeah, it's just a bad run. I mean, it's tough to overcome that if you were a big market team.
No first-round pick in 16, which was from signing who? Ian Kennedy, I think,
Probably,
right?
Probably, yeah.
So then in 17, it's Nick Prado. And then we're all the way up to the pitching crew, Brady Singer, Jackson Kowar, Daniel Lynch, Chris Bubich.
Yeah, that's a bad 2010s. I mean, it's not surprising they are where they are if you read those names off.
Yeah, they haven't gotten enough out of it.
And what has been their surprise? Witt during that span of time. So you'd have to have 5 Witts to overcome that.
Witt, they rule 5, then he's not a draft, so I won't even mention Brad Keller.
Right.
Jacob Junis has teased. That's all I can say. He's teased. You can't say he's become a guy that you can count on. He's teased. That's it. Yeah, it's not enough production from their draft is definitely a big part. And then I think not aggressive enough in trades. So
and you if you're not going to draft well, you have to be aggressive in trades.
Yes. Yes. We'll take a break, come back, talk Chiefs. They're 10-point favorites over the Texans. We're less than a week away. Today is the Monday of game week. We talk Chiefs football with Danny Klingscale. Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Easton Roofing, call them at 913-257-5426. Integrity matters.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. What's the difference at this time of year as we head toward the warmer months for homeowners, and what should they be looking at, coronavirus or not?
If you didn't do a good job of home maintenance in the fall, cleaning your gutters out, when we get the spring rains, that can be a real problem. So you want to make sure that you've done a good job on your home maintenance, cleaning your gutters out. We can help with that. I always tell people they never get their roof inspected. They get their furnace inspected once a year, but they never get their roof inspected. And we do the inspection on your roof for free. So you call, you make an appointment, and we'll show up, do the inspection. It's free. You should have your roof looked at once a year. Take advantage of us. And most likely you're fine. And if there's a problem, hopefully we can get out in front of it and save you money in the end.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
You're in the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Danny Unleashed from DannyKlingscale.com. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. See for yourself why they have so many incredible Google reviews, why they are an Angie's List Super Service Award winner. Free estimate, free inspection. Just call right now at 913-257-5426 online at eastonroofing.com. Joe Spiker and the crew will be happy to take care of you the way they've taken care of me and Danny and some other folks here at the station as well. I know they're getting ready to do a job here at the station for some folks. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Danny, I am curious. Chiefs -10. You like that number?
Right now, I am just curious to see. And at first blush, I kind of like the number. I think I'm going to quickly be able to see whether the Chiefs are just this rollicking runaway freight train that I kind of think they are, or if I'm fooling myself a little bit. But they seem like a team that's poised to, because they have all this offensive talent. They have the best quarterback in the game. And they have no real baggage as far as, they've won now already. They're the man, and it's almost show-off time. Now, maybe that will be counterproductive. By the way, I want to take this tiniest of detours for the NFL. Is there anything in the back of your mind, and I've said this two weeks in a row on my Monday Musings podcast, those positive tests are almost impossibly low.
So, what do you mean?
You don't buy the numbers?
I mean, no, I'm not saying I don't, because I guess, but they just seem almost impossible. These people are going out in the world. I mean, and they've had times where it's like, well, we had no positive tests last week. I'm like,
are they going out in the world? Have you seen them out in the world? I don't follow a lot of the guys on Instagram and all that to see if
but
like,
they at least have to go.
Out.
Well, I'm not saying but I mean they are not in a bubble. They, and if they're doing that, it just is something ticking way back in my mind that this seems. I see the numbers. I'm like, that's too good to be true.
I think they're old enough and they're rich enough that if they just want to have some pops, they can be like, okay, we're going to your house tonight.
Right.
And so from a work standpoint, they are in a bubble. I agree with you. Like, to me, if it's going to go wrong, what's going to happen is somebody's wife or girlfriend is going to come over. And they're going to have it, and that's how a guy's going to get
But there was an article today that Patrick, the article in the Star today talks about Patrick Mahomes and all the things he's doing, and that, he makes if his brother, he has to have a negative test, and then if he leaves, he has to have another negative test. Everybody's doing that? I mean, that seems remarkable to me. I think that's what I mean, outsiders coming to people's homes and stuff like that.
I think during training camp, it's I think it's going to get harder when you get in the season where it's like, okay, Sunday night we roll in, we do film and a lift, and then, Tuesday's off, so Monday, like Sunday and Monday nights are their going out days. And so let's go through a couple of Sunday, Monday combos, and I'm with you.
Right.
I think right now with training camp and all the things they're going through and not having practice and everybody being on top of it, I do think there's a chance that, okay, we got to the season and then there's a letdown and they're not as sharp. But I do feel like masks are being worn consistently by more people. I think that's what's brought some of the numbers down. There's still some people that don't, but, whatever. Not whatever, but it's frustrating. But I think it's done a lot better. And I know those guys are hammered with it. And
they are football players who are creatures of habit and, tend to...
And used to being told what to do and following what they're told to do.
Right. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying this is all a lie. This is not it's just something that is in the back of my mind when I see the number and I'm like, huh? 5 times lower than the population? It's just
I don't have that same reaction.
Okay.
I don't.
That's fine.
I don't. I'm not saying you're wrong.
No,
like I said, we may get to the season
I'm right.
Something comes out.
It's just something that I can't help from having it pop into my head.
Danny, great stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend, my friend.
You too, Soren.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.